I'm Larry Meisner.
I'm Jerri Meisner.
We've been members of UUFR for 44 years, and we're here to tell our story. I first found my way to UUFR when it was on Hawthorne Street, and it turned out I was single at the time, living in an apartment in the Cameron Village area, just a short block from Hawthorne Street. And one of my close friends, who actually had lived in that same apartment before, had said, "You might want to stop by that Unitarian group. They're a bunch of nice people, and it's a good place to meet folks." I thought, I'll put that in my memory to store. And the other thing that helped get me through the doors was I was on my way back from Florida to Raleigh. Naturally had to stop in Atlanta, and while I stopped in Atlanta, I wound up striking up a conversation with a woman sitting near me. Turned out that she was on her way to Raleigh to preach at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I was sort of attracted to her. I thought she was pretty nice. And it turned out that things didn't really work out between the two of us. I think when she had a party for her teenage son, I thought, this is way ahead of me. But she wound up, her name was Kay Montgomery, and she wound up being the executive secretary of the UUA. So she was a very dedicated Unitarian Universalist. But anyway, I got to the fellowship in Raleigh, thinking I might see her there. I didn't, but it was fine. Well, I did meet Jerri through the UUFR. It was in 1979, December. There was a UU singles group Christmas party at Marge Link's house. I remember walking in and seeing her. I thought, boy, she's a nice-looking young woman, and she just had this beautiful voice singing Christmas carols. And so we were both attracted to each other. It was several months later that we started dating, and both started going to the UUFR.
I remember very vividly the move from Hawthorne Street house to our new building. We were so excited about our new building, and we had a ceremony where people walked, those people that were able-bodied walked from the one to the other, carrying hymnals or chalices or things from one building to the other. And it was a really special occasion. And a few months after that, Larry and I were married in what's now Peace Hall 201, but was the sanctuary at that point, by the first minister of UFR, Francis West. And we had become LRY advisors, or youth group advisors, and so our youth group kids were our ushers at our wedding. And wasn't too long before we had Michael, and in those days, the Christmas Eve service was called "Every Night a Child is Born is a Holy Night." And we held child dedications on Christmas Eve. But in 1984, there were no babies, and Marge Link threatened to have me stand up there and have my baby bump blessed instead of a baby, because that was the only person available. And while I was pregnant with David, the Mothers and Others craft group made me a beautiful quilt with hand-painted pictures of characters from Beatrix Potter, who was, of course, a Unitarian, and that's what UFR named its nursery, the Beatrix Potter Nursery.
Yeah, since we had children in the RE department, we felt like we should contribute to that by teaching, so we took turns teaching over the years. Our kids grew up through the UUFR religious education. They took AYS, which is currently OWL. AYS was about your sexuality. It was sort of funny because they met in our basement, and so on Sunday mornings we would leave for church, and the other cars of kids would come in and meet in our basement during the church service. But
there wasn't room.
Everything was still pretty much in where we left it. Reverend Morris Hudgens came in. He really helped to grow the congregation, and he was minister when we built the bottom floor of what is now Founders Hall. Underneath was now the sanctuary, but we started out building the bottom floor, and then later built the top floor on top of that. So that was a special time, getting that big. We had our first service in the new sanctuary in 1992.
And we had a number of ministers, assistant ministers, intern ministers to help Morris, because the congregation was continuing to grow. And we had interns as well. And we were really happy that we got to host Emily Bogus, intern minister with Reverend Julie Denny Hughes. And she lived with us. And it really was the beginning of a lifelong friendship. And she's had a very distinguished career herself in ministry, and that was exciting. And in 1999, UUFR celebrated its 50th anniversary with a big event and a history book that was written to tell about the history through the ages, and I was MC. Larry.
Yeah, I'm going to switch over to some of my involvement at UUFR. That served on the board as vice president with Bill Norman as president. And I thought that was great. Because at the time, all the other board members were committee chairs. I didn't have to be the chair of a committee, I just had to be liaison with a number of committees. And one of the things I admire about Bill, that he was a very straightforward engineer kind of guy, and he would open every board meeting with people talking about what they would be doing if they were not at the board meeting. He did that, it was a way of just respecting one another's time, because board meetings tended to go on for hours, literally. And by asking that question, Bill sort of got it embedded in our minds. We need to be respectful of one another's time. Later we transitioned to an elected board with officers as opposed to being the committee chairs automatically being on the board. I did serve on several committees that were very meaningful to me. The first one was not so great. It was the House and Grounds chair. And I started doing that and realized that that was a little bit more than I could handle without getting significant help from others. There was one particular member of the congregation who would corner me after church and say, "Larry, you need to take care of this switch over here. Larry, that water is not working." And at the time, we did not have the resources to hire professionals for all of these things, but I would try and get out of church before this guy caught up with me. Another committee which was much more successful is I was on the personnel committee. And I remember that Ellen McMillan was the chair of that for quite a while. And she just really took it, she had just retired and this was almost her full-time job. And we had different colored sheets of paper. And one was the first draft, maybe we had white, and then blue was the second draft, and pink was the third draft. And we all had notebooks that we had to go through and match up what color we were on at that time. But Ellen did a great job, and after she stepped off the committee, we decided nobody could do all of the things that Ellen had been doing. And so we basically job shared. One person would go to the council meetings, one would run our committee meetings, one would the external communications. We would just divide it up so we each had an equal load. And that was a good model. I really liked that. The third committee that I was on for some time was the Committee on Ministry. I was first on the committee when Morris was our minister. He was fairly new in his tenure and everything. He was sort of still the honeymoon phase. It was very popular and there was really no issues we needed to talk about. In fact, it became more of a social event. We'd get together at somebody's house once a month, drink some wine, eat some hors d'oeuvres, joke around with Morris, and that, it was fun, but it was not challenging. The next time I was on committee on ministry, it was challenging. Reverend Julie Denny Hughes was our minister. She had a strong personality, and some people did not react well to that. But I used to say that 95% of the people really loved Julie, but the 5% that didn't love her really did not like her at all. And it was difficult because several people came up and just had various complaints, and just really basically wanted Reverend Julie gone. So that was a challenge, and I was glad that when I finished my tenure on that committee.
Well, I was on several committees as well. I was not on the board because I couldn't stay up that late. I mean, truly, they would meet until 10:30 at night. But I was head of the RE committee, and we spent some time taking RE Renaissance modules training, and we went to the mountain as a family, and that was a really learning experience for that. Always have been on membership because I really enjoy welcoming people and getting people connected. But in 1996, I did become president, and I was kind of a string of some really strong women who were born in North Carolina, which was kind of an interesting situation right there.
Yeah, Gail Fitzgerald, Diane Irwin, Ellen McMillan.
And Ann Howe?
Ann Howe,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, so anyway, what a real highlight to me was in 2001, our congregation, so this is 2001, UFR was approaching 500 members. And so there was a conference in Portland, Oregon called the Large Church Conference. And so 5 of us went. It was Julie Denny Hughes, Paige Garriggs, Ellen McMillan, Gail Fitzgerald, and me. And we jokingly called ourselves the Big Church Ladies. But we learned about how a bigger church needs to operate. However, UUFR did not make that transition at that time, so a lot of the ideas that we learned didn't pan out. But the other thing that I really want to stress is the importance of all the foremothers I found at UUFR, strong women. I could name many: Barbara Mikos, Jane Hunt, Maggie Merman, who lived to be over 100, Betty Brown, Betsy Cox, Kitty Munn, Arlene Jarvala,
and
Howe, just, lots of people. But in 1991, Irene Chang passed away, and suddenly we realized we didn't know much about her life, and what a shame that is. So a group founded what was called Irene's Tea in honor of Irene, but it was a Sunday afternoon gathering where younger women and older women just had conversations and got to know each other. And that was a really special event and really helped create some relationships. And Gisela Fleming is going to host a Irene's Tea this October, just kind of as a part of our 75th anniversary celebration. For over 44 years, UFR has nurtured us spiritually, physically, emotionally, and it's our home. It's where we belong. It's part of our identities. I mean, this is who we are. We are Unitarian Universalists. And I always say that you get out of something what you put into it. But in the case of the people of UFR, I've gotten a lot more out of it than I put in.